out there and break a toe. That's what's going to happen. So, all right, let's get into it, guys. So, I kind of talked about it a little bit just a second ago. What we had was Pete Doherty had put out an article, and buried in that article, he had some information on kind of what Jeff Hafley made. Now, we've always speculated, right, Tim? All right, well, probably going to be making about this much. It was reported this guy got paid that much. This information doesn't get leaked out very easily, although these coaches have agents that work for them, and they want to get the information out as much as they can, right? They want people to know, I'm getting my client the top dollar. That's how this stuff typically leaks out. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to kind of dive into what Pete Doherty said. We're going to go through what the research is showing, what DCs are getting, and then we'll talk about what Rich Bisaccia is potentially getting paid. And I'm sure this will spark a big conversation. This isn't going to turn into a Rich Bisaccia Rose Fest. This isn't going to turn into Ed Policy Roach Fest, right? This is literally all this is kind of laying out. We're putting to bed, it seems like the Packers are paying top dollar for coordinators. And it explains why Rob Demovsky got so animated on that show the other day, obviously dropping some wordy words that we don't approve of on this particular program. So let's get into it, Tim. I wanted to say credits for the basis of this information was uncovered by Pete Doherty of the Green Bay Press-Gazette. You can follow Pete on X at Pete Doherty and at PackersNews.com. Pete has reported that the Packers paid Jeff Hafley's Boston College buyout, which I think it was kind of reported. I don't know if Pete reported on this. I've heard $1 million. So the Packers have paid $1 million roughly to buy him out of that contract with Boston College, and then a $4 million salary. Now, other reports were saying it was a $1 million buyout, $3 million salary, somewhere in the 3 to 5 range, I think is safe to say. But just combing through, asking AI, hey, what are we hearing here? They had some links attached as well. When Jeff Hafley joined the Green Bay Packers in early 2024, he reportedly left a secure $4 million annual salary at Boston College. While his specific Packers contract figures weren't disclosed, several industry factors provide a clear picture. Market competitive offer to lure a successful sitting Power 5 head coach back to the NFL. The Packers offer likely met or exceeded his collegiate salary. Again, this is what AI is saying. Pete Doherty already said $4 million. Okay. Top tier status reports indicated that Hafley left big money on the table at BC to pursue the role. But industry analysts suggest the Packers deal likely landed in the $3.5 million to $5 million range to make him one of the highest paid coordinators in the league. Career trajectory, his success in Green Bay taking the defense to a top 10 unit in scoring yards and takeaways 2024 led him to being hired as a Miami Dolphins head coach. All right, so on the surface here, guys, what we're talking about is, first of all, you got to ask yourself, why would Jeff Hafley leave being a head coach in college to come to the NFL to get paid pretty much the same money to be a DC? He was very vocal. He didn't like NIL. He didn't like the direction that college football was going in, because there's some schools, if you guys didn't hear Luke Fickell yesterday on the Wilding and Tao show, man, anytime you hear a coach talk to him, they're like, this thing's changing. Like, it's different. I think he said it's different today than it was last Wednesday. Like it's constantly evolving. So that explains why, in my opinion, Jeff Hafley was like, yeah, I'm getting the hell away from this monster. Let's go to the league where everybody can legally pay players and everybody's on an equal playing field, which I kind of hope that's what college football gets to, is a similar model, like a salary cap type thing. But what's your thoughts on this? I think this is good news, because we've always had in the back of our mind, are we being cheapskates with assistants? And that's why we're not getting what we need,
No, I think it's a great point. And I think the other thing, you have to look at is the fact that it's a path to, a head coaching job in the NFL. I mean, hindsight being 2020, Hafley is the new head coach of the Miami Dolphins, right? So he got out of the college, the mess of NIL that he wanted to. And you're right, regardless of what he was paid to be our DC the last 2 seasons, I think that clearly there was going to be a path for him to be a head coach again and at the professional level. And here he is now down in South Beach. So, I do. I think it does kind of shine a light on the fact that, if we place value on our assistants, we're going to find a way to get them here. And, I don't think we're being too cheap. Hopefully not. We got a new regime, right? We've got at least new leadership at the top. But the core is still there with, obviously, why am I drawing a blank right now? Russ Ball making these decisions, and Goody's still in the mix, and Matt LaFleur. So I think when they build this staff out, I don't think we're going to be stingy, and we're not going to be cheap. Certainly weren't cheap with Rich, right? We got Rich here.
Right. Now, listen, whether people think he's the right choice or not, that's up for debate, and everybody gets very colorful with that conversation, right? But the reality is the reports that Justice Mosqueda had before that kind of stemmed from other articles that were written suggested that that's why they missed out on Darren Rizzi in 2019, right? Now, Rob Demovsky was very colorful with his comments, saying that's absolute BS, right? That is not the case. Rizzi didn't want to come to Green Bay. He wanted to go to somewhere warmer. Now he ends up in Denver. The irony is very thick there, right? So with all that being said, it feels like things have shifted because they did go pay Rich Bisaccia. We're going to talk about that next. But NFL defensive coordinator salary rankings 25 through 26. Hafley's compensation in Green Bay likely placed him in the elite bracket of NFL coordinators. For comparison, here are the top paid DCs of the 2025 season. Vic Fangio with Philadelphia Eagles, $4.5 million. Matt Eberflus for the Dallas Cowboys, $4 million. They paid Eberflus $4 million to go down there and completely destroy their defense. It's wild to think about. Steve Spagnuolo, Kansas City Chiefs, $3.5 million. Todd Bowles with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, $3 million. Aiden Durd, the Seattle Seahawks up-and-coming coach there, $2 million. That's a guy that I wonder if he'll get a head coaching offer or at least interview for next week. I think all coaches can kind of interview next week, whether they've been eliminated or not, because you get that week between, the Super Bowl. But those are just kind of some quick glances there. Most NFL defense coordinators earn between $1 and $2 million. Hafley's background as a head coach likely pushed him into the top 3 tier alongside veteran defensive minds like Fangio and Spagnuolo. So again, the reason I'm excited about this news is you paid top dollar and you got a top dollar performance with Jeff Hafley, right? You ended up with 2 years of top 10 defense. Now, down the stretch, it got ugly, a lot of injuries. Is that the norm? I don't know. But to me, Tim, this says, okay, probably going to go out and spend top 3 money again to get the right guy in here. And to me, that's exciting. It really is, man. So in terms of Rich Bisaccia, when Rich Bisaccia was hired by the Packers in 2022, the move was widely reported as making him the highest paid special teams coordinator in the NFL. While the Packers do not officially release contract figures, here's the breakdown of the compensation, blah, blah, blah. So Bisaccia reportedly earns approximately $2 million per year. He signed an extension on January 27, 2025, which keeps him under contract through the 2026 season. Okay. So he is under contract this year. Will he be back? I don't know. They could cut ties there. They could just keep him on staff as the assistant head coach and hire someone else to be special teams coordinator. That's the route I would go because, listen, whether we like Rich Bisaccia or not, and again, I've been very vocal. When I watch the special teams, I don't look up and go, oh, this is lack of coaching. I look at these guys and go, well, that's lack of execution. You just let somebody scream off the edge to get a hand in the face of your kicker. That's lack of execution. Romeo Doubs, arguably your most veteran wide receiver on your team, on the hands team, to try to field an onside kick, and he's backing up. And afterwards he said, yeah, I've got to go after that ball. He realized he made a mistake. That's not on the coaches. They can't go out there and go, pause like it's Madden. Go field the ball. Go field the ball. All you can do is train them, coach them. They got to go out there and make the plays. And this is something Brian Balaga's talked about as well on their afternoon show there. And when he comes on with Wildy and Tausch, he was on with Homer the other night. And I don't want to get too off topic. We want to stay on time here, but he was talking offensive line, right? And basically Homer, and listen, I like Homer, but he's covered a team for a long time, right? He has the most casual approach to giving an opinion on a team that I've ever heard. Like, he was literally like, well, why didn't Matt LaFleur make second half adjustments with the offensive line if they couldn't block? And Balaga went, Homer, how many protections do you think there are? Like, there's only a handful of protections.
How many offensive linemen did we have left?
And on top of that, he's like, we got Scat, we got Jet. And it's like, and Balaga kind of reiterated it. I think it was yesterday on Wildy and Tausch, or maybe it was the day before. Like, I actually posted the quote the other day where he chimed in. I think we did a video on the show. He's essentially saying it's not on Butkus, it's not on the coaches. They've got the most out of these guys. He said in a very nice way, this is as good as they're going to be, meaning the decisions that were made for the offensive line put in place were the problem, meaning, as bad as people don't want to hear it, Brian Gutekunst probably whiffed on a few. right? I mean, Aaron Banks he probably whiffed on Aaron Banks. Rasheed Walker, everyone was hoping, and this is where I give Goody a little grace because Rasheed Walker came in as a seventh round pick and was your starting left tackle. They were hoping he'd take another step. Well, it looks like he's kind of plateaued. And even though he plateaued, he's about to get $20 million a year, most likely in free agency, right?
It's not easy to fill the shoes of the legendary David Bakhtiari. Yes. And I think for a seventh rounder, Rasheed did about as good as you could expect, if not a little more. But I'm with you, Clay. It would have been nice to really see him get to that next level and maybe live up to that level of play that we saw from number 69 for so many years.
Yeah. And again, the reason I bring this up during the Bisaccia talk is because it's lack of execution. There's one thing, and I actually called into Wildy and Tausch the other day. It's a point that I made, and I actually asked Tausch, I'm like, if you could choose, because this is Matt LaFleur's fault as opposed to it's Goody's fault. And I said, if you could choose, Tausch, you played in the league. If you could choose between having a first-year rookie lineup next to you or on both sides of you, let's get extreme, or would you rather have a 7-year vet? Which would you rather have? And he said, well, all things being equal, a 7th-year vet. But if it's a young Josh Sitton, I'd rather have Josh Sitton. That's not – again, the question is, should we get a little bit older or should we stay the youngest team in the league, right? That's the point I was trying to make. And he didn't answer it honestly. But with all that being said, at some point we've got to acknowledge that the youth of this team is at least playing somewhat of a role in the mental mistakes, the penalties, and the late game collapses. I'm sorry, you're not going to convince me. Nick said it again earlier in the chat, and I agree 100%. You're not going to convince me it's Matt LaFleur's fault that the defense gave up 25 points in the fourth quarter of that Bears game. There's nobody that can convince me. There's not an adjustment he could have made to prevent that from happening. Well, why did it happen, Clayton? You've seen guys getting beat. You've seen Edgerrin Cooper leave with an injury, so now you're down to the bare bones minimum of your defensive roster. No Micah, no Devontae, no Edgerrin Cooper. You've got, once again, an undrafted free agent and a 7th-round pick playing corner. Like, what are we expecting, right? So, to me, it's more about roster construction. But do the guys need to coach better? Absolutely, they need to coach better. Again, whether you think Rich Bisaccia is a good special teams coordinator or not, it came out this week. Everybody in the building wants him back. There was no reports of this guy doesn't like him, that guy doesn't like him. It was just unanimous across the board. Everybody's saying he's a culture guy. They want to keep him in Green Bay. So I think the right move would be, hey, assistant head coach, great, and now go pay a young and up-and-comer special teams coordinator, right, to come in and work with Rich and let him focus on that while Rich helps with the culture, that type of thing. So
I agree 100%. But I think personnel plays into that factor as well when we talk about special teams. I don't think that gets brought up enough. I mean, hell, we had our starting running back returning kicks against the Bears. It got that bad. So when you are young, look at how your team's groups are made up. And it's tough to get, consistent execution if you've got musical chairs with young players in your special teams room. So you can bring me the best special teams coordinator in the world. He's still got to work with the pieces that he has. So, roster construction plays a role there as well.
Yeah, definitely. And Mike Z in the chat said players make plays, period. Right. Yeah. I mean, again, Bill Belichick quote, players win them and coaches lose them is what he says.
Yep.
Right. If you don't have the right guys on the roster, it's going to be hard to coach those guys up. I mean, that's the thing too, with the youngest roster in the league. The fact that we made the playoffs 3 years in a row with the youngest roster in the league, to me, that feels like it's peaked. It's like, all you can do is give these guys a chance. And then you get out there and the bright lights come on in the playoffs. And, you're going to want, a veteran player to potentially make a play here. Skip, if I'm saying that right. Low skip, maybe. You need vet dogs. I mean, again, I don't think there's anybody that's hearing my voice right now, no matter what job it is that you do for a living. I imagine if you are in the heat of the battle and it's crunch time and it's okay, we got to get this done right now. The pressure is on. Would you rather have a first-year employee or would you rather have somebody who's been here for 8 years and know the industry, they know the business, they know the task at hand, right? It's a no-brainer. Now, there's got to be a good blend of that. You can't just, march out a bunch of Social Security checks out there on the field every Sunday, right? It's got to be right. I'm not saying we need to be the oldest team in the league. I'm not saying we need to be the 15th oldest team in the league. I'm just asking for once, Can we please not be the youngest team in the league? Get me around that 5 mark. That's all I need. That's all I need. So
scared money don't make money.
Correct, Coach. Now, final point, the Packers seem to have shifted to paying huge money for assistants, which means all defensive coordinator candidates should be on the table and seem to be waiting for the big fish to hit the pond this week. Jim Leonard, book your flight, sir. I'm getting more excited about Jim Leonard. Now, listen, I would be okay with Durante Jones, right? Jonathan Gannon, I'm not as high on as others. If I had to rank them, though, I would go of the 3 interviews we have left, Durante Jones, Jonathan Gannon, and Al Harris. I would probably rank them Durante Jones, Jonathan Gannon, then Al Harris. And I know people are going to hate that. The main reason I want Al Harris as a DC is because I know the fans will absolutely love it. And there's nothing better than seeing a bunch of fired up Packer fans. But if I'm going strictly off of what they've done in the league so far, and more specifically, like with Jonathan Gannon, I know he was a quirky head coach and everything, but what he did in Philly as a DC was pretty damn impressive, enough so to be one of the top head coaching hires. As a defensive coach, which you're kind of stacked against it anyway there, getting the job. So we'll continue to give you guys breaking news on all of this. As I love it. Donovan Shelley said, fire Jim Leonard, hashtag fire Jim Leonard, hashtag hire Al Harris. There you go. So I'm curious to know what everybody thinks. Let us know in the comments. How do you feel about this report here from Pete Doherty that the Packers seem to be paying bigger money on assistant coaches? Let us know in the comments what you think if you're watching this back later. Also, make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you know when we go live in the future.